Hi everyone, welcome to my review of M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable in the year 2000. Here is the Blu-ray, and of course, once again, part of this free film set, the Shyamalan set on Blu-ray. And yes, this is the second film that I'll be reviewing from Shyamalan. Not his second film, as I've said, there are films before The Sixth Sense. Believe it or not, that he made, Wide Awake being one of them. We'll be going back to them. I'm not reviewing them really as part of this whole series, in order. But yes, basically, this is the second one, really that I'm reviewing, and it's a one that along now with The Sixth Sense, really you could say, is his most popular film. It was certainly not at the time. It's one of them films that maybe people didn't really understand. I don't like to say that, but yeah, I think it was kind of brushed over, and the marketing, from what I gather, you can't really gather to. I can't be exact, but from what I've kind of read up on, it's not great marketing. People didn't really know, what this film was. And it's just kind of it's definitely grown over the years. In terms of estimations. People would now say that this is one of the top two or three, if not the best Shyamalan film of all time. And some people would go further to say, this is probably one of the best films of the time and of all time. Many people say it's one of the best superhero films, which it is. It's a superhero origin film. And basically one that is very, very different. To say Superman or Spider-Man, Batman Begins, all this sort of stuff in terms of the origin. Very, very different. And Shyamalan has said himself, that this he doesn't like to compete. With the amazingness, the awesomeness of Avengers and stuff. He doesn't want to kind of go, all out action. And that's not neither a bad thing or a good thing. It always depends on the film. It's just a very, very different take on it. And yeah, basically, this is one of the ones, I'd never seen this until, last year in February. And, I watched it. I got this set, and as well I got the DVD of The Village. I had that for ages, but I rewatched that along with these. And, I rewatched it I watched this in February, and I rewatched it again in July, last year. So, yeah, that kind of explains how much I liked it. This film, I didn't know exactly what to expect. It really intrigued me. I didn't, look at any trailers or anything. I just went in, and I watched it in February last year, as I say, and it blew me away. Wow, this one really, pretty much straight away shot up. It's pretty much, for me, is as good as, in many, many ways, as A Sixth Sense, and is it better than Sixth Sense? I think you'll have to wait, until the ranking really for that. But I think I have in my mind what I prefer, what I connect to more, and of course, there's another Shyamalan that actually is very, very close as well to these two, and it's not After Earth or anything, but yeah, it's one of these early ones. There's a hint. This one, really. Completely blew me away. I just absolutely loved this film, and I thought that's definitely one of the best, of many different things. Superhero films. It's actually my top 5 superhero films, and I think there's only a few really that beat this. And it's just such a unique film, an emotional film. Like these early Shyamalan films are. They're just full of emotion. And sometimes you can't really, even the stuff you can explain. There's other things, that just. At times I just feel very emotional when watching these early Shyamalan films, The Sixth Sense, even more so, that's a film that, just throughout the entire film. But this one, once again, it's just got such a feeling, and the emotion in it, and, all the subtleties and all this kind of stuff. Basically, this film, it begins with this, a couple of scenes, and there's a train crash involving Bruce Willis's character of David Dunn. He's basically a security guard. He's got a kid and a wife, and basically he's a security guard. And he's in a train crash, and you learn pretty much after that he didn't sustain any injuries whatsoever. Not really a scratch from that. Pretty much everyone else dies from this train crash. And there's an amazing opening scene, and then of course you've got the other opening kind of prologue thing you've got with this character of Elijah Price, and he's basically, you see him as when he's born, this scene, and he's someone who basically, he's very, very frail. He's got a disease where he basically, his bones are very, very fragile, and he's born with broken arms and legs. So straight away, this is really something that just drew me in. You've got these two parallels, and you've got all this going on, all this mystery. Why is this the case? What's happening? And I got sucked in straight away. And let me tell you, every time I've watched this film since, these two extra times, it's gotten better and better. And like the early Shyamalans, it really and the twists, kind of just make it more and more tragic, and it's more of a richer experience. They're not just, as he says, parlor tricks. They're not gimmicks. They really, really enhance the film, and really just reveal what the film actually truly is. And some people say they don't like rewatching films. I actually have to admit I do prefer rewatching films, and there's something as well comforting about rewatching one of your favourite films, the comfort of knowing you love the film, and it could grow on you even more, and you could see new things. I like rewatches more, and films like this, just get better and better on rewatches. I think this film is an easy masterpiece. As I've said, it's up there with The Sixth Sense and another Shyamalan as well. And basically, yeah, it's this story. Elijah Price, basically, after the train crash, I won't go into too much of the plot, but he kind of contacts, David, Bruce Willis's character, and says, how many days have you been sick, in your life? And basically, this, gets him thinking, and eventually comes to see him. This character of Elijah is basically a comic book theorist, you could say, and he basically, because of his, his injuries and the fact that a lot of his childhood was mostly in hospital and stuff, he was he's obsessed with comic books, and it kind of is an amazing way to kind of bring that out. Shyamalan really explores the comic book genre masterfully in this film. He does so much unique stuff with it, and he kind of just gets to the bottom of maybe at times as well the actual purpose and use of comic books on humanity. And just in general, humanity, what he brings out in this film, it's wonderful. It really is, once again, a truly, human film, and, it's full of depth. These characters, David, Elijah, some of the best characters in cinema, actually, for me. And, I think, yes, I would definitely agree this is one of the best of the 2000s. And for me, it's actually one of the best, at least in my top 100 favourite films of all time, and it's just absolutely wonderful. These characters are so good. Now, of course, Samuel Jackson, plays Elijah, and it's one of his best performances. And Samuel L. Jackson, of course, is just one of the best, for me, one of the best actors of all time. And to say it's one of his very best performances is high praise. You think Django, Pulp Fiction, so many great performances, and it's just, he's amazing in this film. I can understand if people say this is his best. Very, very emotional performance, and such a a complex character. And of course there's a twist at the end, which I'm trying not to ruin. But yeah, I think just both of these characters, are so good in this film, and they're always so compelling. And just the dynamics that play off them, and of course the son of David as well. All the involvement there. It's just a wonderful film. The narrative is masterful, and just seeing it unfold once again, it's genius. Once again, the writing in this film is truly something else. Shyamalan, one of the best writers in cinema. When he's on form, just genius. It twists everything, and it kind of it's an origin story, but a very, very different one. And I'm not saying if it's better than every origin superhero story, but it's definitely the most unique, maybe. And just such a kind of subtlety to it. It's probably the most subtle superhero film of all time. Again, not saying it's the best, and I'd say it's even more subtle than Dark Knight. Just in the nature of the way this film is made. The structure of the film, as always, these early Shyamalans, wonderful structure. The storytelling visually is perfect. This has been slightly criticised at times. The camera work and all that kind of stuff. I think it's wonderful. Even the opening scenes on the trains and everything. The train scene there, wonderful. The way it's shot. I love the use of colours in this film. Again, key to when you rewatch it, you can kind of catch on even more with the colours, and all these different hints. It's something, of course, there's many different things that he kind of does to kind of. It's hard to explain, but yes, basically, there's hints throughout, but then because of the way he does certain things, you kind of think, no, it can't be that. But it is, and it's so genius, this film. Very, very emotional, as I say. This kind of has such a kind of meaning to it. The hope that is portrayed in the film is wonderful, and that's kind of what superhero films should do. More than most things, it is to portray the sense of hope and kind of just kind of stand it up. And all these different scenes in the film. There's so many different scenes that kind of portray this, and of course as well. You've got the wonderful and epic kind of weight lifting scene with Bruce Willis. That is just amazing. And the whole final act of this film is just operatic and just so emotionally satisfying. And of course, there's that twist which completely turns it into a full-on, you could say, tragedy. And when you rewatch it, just even more compelling. As always, mystery films, some people say when you rewatch them, it's not quite as interesting, but not always. And this is one of the ones that kind of really when the mystery is gone, you could say, kind of it's an even better film, and that is just a testament really to the writing and everything that Shyamalan does, with this film. And of course, the James Newton Howard score, once again. Genius, masterful score here. I think this is probably, I listen to the scores quite a lot. This and The Village, for me, his two best scores that he's ever done, and this one could be the best. It's got everything really in it, and it's more, you could say, it's more epic and kind of, big than the other pieces that he's done. In the Shyamalan films, and it's just absolutely wonderful. It plays such a role, This is an operatic film, as I've said. Really, it's truly wonderful in terms of that, and just visual storytelling, mastery, and of course the score, the way that's used, integrated into the film, it's just wonderful. This film, it really is flawless for me. I have no flaws whatsoever. The performances are absolutely stunning. Bruce Willis, again, just proving he's one of my favourite actors. When on form. Yes, he's been in some films that aren't great. Of course, Die Hard 5 and all this kind of stuff. But it's just when he's on form. I love Bruce Willis, and again, a warm actor, and he brings that to this film. This is such a warm film once again. It's just full of heart. Full of passion. These relationships, throughout the film, are just so uplifting. And moving. Of course, Robin Wright. Is in the film as the wife of Bruce Willis, and she is wonderful in this film. As always, really, she's great, and it's just such a wonderful romance once again. Shyamalan does some of the best, at least most interesting romances, of modern cinema. I think The Sixth Sense as well. Wonderful, love story, that's in the film, and The Village as well. But yes, this one is wonderful. It really is moving stuff. This kind of small family unit, and just I find that with Shyamalan films, the early ones, they're very, very you could say family orientated, and this one, it's just so uplifting, so pure in terms of that, and it's so wonderful. It really is human, and it's just stunning. This film. It's one of the best thrillers, one of the best superhero films, dramas. It has everything, that Shyamalan is really best at. And I don't think, it'd be rare to top this. Now, I mean, Glass, I have absolutely massive hopes for. You know, because I did love Split, and Glass could be even better. You know, I'm holding out for it to be absolutely brilliant. Coming out, of course, January, and I'll be going to see it, reviewing it. And yes, basically, this film, you know, I cannot praise it more. You know, it's just a visual masterpiece. You know, in terms of characters, just how, you know, this genius setup, fairly simple at times, and that's, you know, one of its strengths as well. The score, you know, the way that's used is overwhelming. You know, this is just such an emotional film. It's a genius film. You know, it's just so entertaining, thrilling. You know, the way this film is shot and edited, and it's just full of heart, full of wonder. And even when, you know, you rewatch it, you know, the mystery is still there, and many things. You know, Shyamalan never reveals everything. You could say, even though he does have twists. You know, he's kind of he's smart enough not to reveal every single thing. So you're kind of left wondering at times as well. You know, and of course, Split, you know, is a sequel of some sorts, you know, to this, and then of course Glass is, you know, the third film in the trilogy, you could say, or, you know, series. And yes, you know, this film just is the perfect origin story, you know, superhero origin story. And, you know, of course, as I've said, it gets full marks for me. I'm completely invested every time I watch this film. Completely moved. You know, just I get, you know, shivers from how epic it is. You know, and just it's such a human film, and one that is just, you know, really so creative, so well executed. The performances are masterful, and just in terms of every element of filmmaking here is just perfect. And I have to give it, of course, full marks. Easily into my plus tiers, of course. I've said it's in my top 100. I've said it's up there with The Sixth Sense, and of course, I gave that, and I'll give this the same rating of 100% plus tier 1 in my top 100 films of all time. You know, I can understand how people say this is the best. I won't reveal, you know, what my favourite is until my ranking. But some of these early ones, you know, I will say very close. You know, you could see me giving another one of these next two films, you know, Signs and The Village, believe it or not. One of these could be the same rating as these two films, you know, that I've reviewed. And, you know, I just think this is a genius film. Once again, Shyamalan, a master, one of the masters when he's on form. This is such a you know, kind of a streak of just wonderful films. You know, some of the best of all time. And this is, you know, it's just such a good, you know, superhero film. It's just such a genius film. You know, and it works, you know, on every level. As I've said, it's so human, so moving. You know, I think it's just a beautiful film, and it really, once again, spiritual film. And you know, I loved all the exposition in the film. Of course, again, not revealing everything, but everything that's essential. You know, the performances: Samuel Jackson, Bruce Willis, Robin Wright, everyone in this film, perfect. You know, I think the use of music, James Newton Howard's probably, it could be his best score. You know, along with The Village, and it's just got everything in this film. This is epic. You know, it's a thrilling film, you know, and of course it's just a truly human film that really it's genius in terms of what it does, you know, with the genre, but just in terms of cinema, it really is so creative and so masterfully executed that I have to say it's in my top 100. And yes, if you've not seen this film, check it out. You know, and of course, watch, if you like this, of course, watch Split, and then of course Glass is coming up as well, which I am massively hyped for. You know, I really am. It's probably one of my most, you know, anticipated films of the next few years for sure. You know, along with the new Bond film. You know, although I'm a bit less hyped for that now. You know, after the kind of Danny Boyle, you know, dropping out. But yes, this is Glass is definitely one of the, you know, ones that I am absolutely dying to see. And Unbreakable was where it all began, you know, and it's just a contender for the greatest Shyamalan film. And this is one of the greatest films ever made for me. And yes, can't wait to review, you know, certainly the next few Shyamalan films. You know, of course, Signs, The Village, and then I'm going to buy Lady in the Water on Blu-ray. And yeah, go from there. You know, with yes, films like The Last Airbender and stuff. Not looking forward to that, but I love Shyamalan. He's such a good director, so I'll watch them and see what they're like. But I have to be fair. I can't lie just because I think these are great films. About his other ones. But again, I have massive respect for him, so I won't be bashing on them. Just but I look forward to reviewing them as well. So yes, thanks for watching my review of Unbreakable.